Go ahead.
Excuse me.
So, no recording of any type, please. We are going to talk about something I rarely ever talk about to audiences, and I wrote 3 books about it, but I don't talk about it often. That's the Bigfoot arena. And there's a lot of dissension, a lot of mean people, a lot of bad things that happen in this community, and unfortunately, we're going to talk about bringing it back to positive thinking, positive talking, and get away from the degradation that's gone on. But one of the things that got me started in it is I was studying what John Green did. And John Green was a Canadian, and he started doing Bigfoot sighting reports. And what he did was he was taking affidavits from the witnesses. Affidavit is a legal document saying you swore under penalty of perjury that what you're saying is true and correct. And I started to do that in my first 2 books. All the witnesses had to do a sighting report. And in that report, they signed an affidavit. And what I also did is I brought in a forensic artist, trained by the FBI from the state of Oklahoma, Harvey Pratt. And Harvey drew the sketches of what the people saw. At the bottom, the sketch on the right is of a rapist murderer at a carnival that some witnesses saw leave with a couple of girls. On the left is the picture after the guy was caught. Harvey is dead on accurate. It's amazing. It almost looks like when he draws the sketch, the person is in the room. That's why I used him to do the sketches. Harvey also won the award to make the National Native American Veterans Memorial at the Smithsonian. It's being built right now. And it was a national challenge to bring out the best. And Harvey is one of my best friends, one of the best people I've ever met. Very spiritual, 50 years in law enforcement, so he really brings a lot to the table whenever I'm talking to him about issues. About Bigfoot, when I brought him in, he goes, Dave, there's a lot of things my elders and my parents told me when I was young about Bigfoot. So I'm right there with you. And we learned together starting 10 years ago. That was my first book, The Hoopa Project. Very positive feedback. The research field was split. When I started doing Bigfoot research, I didn't have any skin in the game. A couple of people from a technology company I was working for hired me to go out and figure it out. And they said, we don't know what we saw in the Sierra Nevada mountains, but we want you to go find out what it is. If it's a hoax, prove it. If it's an ape, prove it. If it's a human, prove it. We didn't care. There's no dog in the fight. A pure factual research. That's all it was. So, when I started in it, 90% of the people thought it was an ape, Gigantopithecus. I heard that incessantly. But when we sat down with the Native Americans in Northern California and we started to do the sketches, we were stunned. We sat there the first day, second day in the room as a group, looking at those sketches going, I can't believe that this is it. It looks like a hairy human. Second, well, this is the reviews on Amazon on the book, 5 stars. Don't buy anything from me on Amazon. These are resellers ripping you off, so I don't sell on Amazon. Tribal followed up to Hoopa, broad scope versus a confined area. We've got DNA, and we started to look at the color of the hair versus the age, and we found that the younger the Bigfoot was, the lighter the colored hair. And as they grow older, the color of the hair changes. It's not fur, it's hair. And as it gets older, the hair changes just like a human. And that is a sketch that Harvey did of the Patterson-Gimlin biped named Patty. Tribal Bigfoot, 5 stars on Amazon. This is the 3rd Bigfoot book I wrote, and I think it's one of the most important for a few reasons. As I was researching missing people, I'd be going through newspaper archives and I'd find articles about wild men. Not wild animals dressed like humans, not wild apes, wild gorillas, Gigantopithecus. They always called them wild men. Going back to the 1600s in newspapers across the world. And I started cutting out these articles and I started keeping them. Pretty soon I had a huge folder, and I said, I had to do something with this. All that book is newspaper articles of a creature that we all know as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And all of the articles, you'll read them and you'll go, wow, that's just like it is in the 21st century and the 20th century. It's going way back all over the world. So a lot of people don't know it, but this is a worldwide issue. This isn't a North American issue. Now, this is an article that was in one of my first two books. And the important piece behind this article that you will not see any other Bigfoot researcher bring up is, the title is Big Hairy Indians Back of Ape Tail. Read this again, Big Hairy Indians Back of Ape Tail. It was a 1924 article in the Oregonian. And 3 Native American tribes got together and held a press conference. Because some people were on a trail, they saw these things, they were throwing rocks at them, trying to keep them away out of their area. These people got upset, went to the sheriff. The sheriff was getting together a posse, and he was going to march out there with a bunch of armed people and kill these things. Three different tribes get together, they have a press conference. And they said, first of all, do not go out there and kill these things. They're a different tribe, they're a tribe like us, they're people, they have their own language, and they're called the Sibletics. And the Clayland, the Lumi, and the Quinault stated that they can mimic anything in the woods. You'll hear birds and bears and mountain lions, and they can imitate anything. They're harmless unless attacked, and they specifically stated in 1924 that they had supernatural powers. Now, folks, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I'm not even the first Bigfoot researcher. There were 50, 75 world-famous researchers before me. Not one brought this article up. Why? Because it doesn't fit with their paradigm. It doesn't fit with what they're trying to feed you. But the facts are the facts. 3 Native American tribes lived with these things. Probably every Native American tribe and First Nations tribe in North America lived with these things. And everyone we interviewed in those 2 books felt the same thing as the Clumy and the Quinault and the Lumi. So, this is the Bhagavad Gita. Anybody ever heard of it? All right. No Bigfoot researchers ever brought this up. So, I have a son who is deeply into religious studies. And he walked up Bluff Creek with me right to the area where the Patterson-Gimlin film was filmed, and he slowly got acclimated to it. He understood, hey, this is a real thing. And so some research he did, this is a 5,100-year-old document. It's one of the oldest religious documents. It has 700 verses. It presents Hindu texts of a Krishna spiritual discovery. Now, the main reference book, the Mahatma Gandhi, supported and read through it during his entire life. It was a hugely important spiritual document. And in fact, Robert Oppenheimer recalled the verses in this after his first detonation of a nuclear bomb. He said, I am becoming the death destroyer of the worlds after he broke it. And then he read this out loud. Now, why is this important? This thing right here is in the documents 5,100 years ago. And it talks about demons shifting according to the weather. They called them forest demons. They would come out of the forest, they would steal women, they were hairy, they looked like humans, they walk like man, and they live under the mountains. Folks, 5,100 years ago. What are we hearing about today? Now, here's what you hear about from some of the highly intellectual academic types that come to this conference. Really, this is Gigantopithecus probably. 100,000, lived 100,000 to 9 million years ago. Its home was Vietnam, China, and Indonesia, and India. There's no evidence it had a high intellect. The evidence of its existence is a tooth and a partial jaw. That's it. There's no evidence by any stretch of the imagination, evidence factual evidence it was in North America. None. There's no evidence it could walk upright. None. And listen carefully. There's no ape, gorilla fossils found in the North America wild. Now, remember the book I just showed you about Bigfoot, wild men, and giants? In that book, I've got dozens of articles about giant human bones found in North America. Some of the bones went to the Smithsonian, other went to other science institutions. So is there evidence of giants in North America? Yes. Is there any evidence or fossils supporting that ape or gorilla bones are in North America? No. Apes in North America. Some facts. There are no ape bones here. They've never found ape or gorilla hair. Apes don't like to swim. Yet Rob Alley wrote a book called Raincoast Sasquatch about dozens and dozens of reports of Bigfoot seen swimming amongst the islands in Canada and Alaska. Fact. Apes don't use language. Scott Nelson, a cryptolinguist specialist trained by the U.S. government, listened to Ron Moorhead's film and confirmed that as language. And others have come forward and confirmed that's language. Apes have definitive DNA. We can go into something that's called GenBank, the world receptacle for DNA. And we can find what everything in the world is based on the DNA. Now, no ape DNA has ever been found or recovered in North America, ever, in the wild. Some facts. No other Bigfoot group in the world uses an affidavit to collect witnesses other than mine. Why? When I sit down with you and you say, I saw this, this, and this, I put it in a legal document. You review it, you sign it, it's notarized. That thing is fact. Boom. And it can never be changed, it can never be altered. You have a copy, and I have a copy. I have 4 different researchers that worked for other Bigfoot groups, some of the biggest in the world. All of them left. Do you know why? Because they submitted reports and what witnesses said, and they were all changed. They were all changed to mimic the beliefs of that owner, not the witnesses stated. Credible researchers wanted to leave and go where, hey, we'll give to you exactly what the facts are. This is Wally Hersham. He backed one of the biggest Bigfoot groups in the world for 4 years. They had a task to do one thing, get Bigfoot DNA. How much Bigfoot DNA did they get? The biggest Bigfoot group in the world. Anybody know? None. Why? These aren't stupid people. They aren't. They can't be that stupid. So when I got into the picture, I said, well, let's get some Bigfoot DNA. So what did I do? I figured out how the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service gets their DNA on big mammals. And I thought, this can't be too hard. If we fail, we fail, but let's try it. And then I was given some Bigfoot DNA from Hoopa in Northern California. And I looked for 4 different universities I went through trying to get them to test it. How many of the 4 said they would test it? None. I finally found somebody who testified in the Texas Supreme Court regularly as a witness on DNA. And she put several people on death row because of her testimony. That was Dr. Melba Ketchum. Dr. Ketchum tested the DNA I had and said, Dave, it's like no other DNA in the world. This is highly unique. From that point, I took her on coast to coast, and I said, hey, if you're a researcher out there, this is what we want, this type of DNA. Within 3 months, we had 110 different DNA samples. I could spend, and I have spent before, hours talking about this DNA study. 4 different PhDs wrote the white paper. 4 different university labs tested the results, and all of it was done automatically and automated by a Louisiana crime lab to extricate the DNA and to classify it. so there was no human intervention. That study has been suppressed by many people because it doesn't fit the paradigm of these other organizations. Now, I'm laying my credibility on the line, but how do I know so much about this? Because it spent years of my life. I was deep into it. When they had the press release to release this data to the world, I wouldn't go, because I knew what was going to happen. They were going to fry those people. And I said, I don't want my face up there, even though I was the guy that took everything under my wing and helped navigate this going. I was right. I knew it was coming. So, Patterson-Gimlin film. First of all, it's a female. Less than 5% of all sighting reports are female. How weird is that? A female is filmed in 1967 for over a minute and a half in a wide open sandbar in Northern California. She never ran. That has never happened. Every other Bigfoot that's caught in an open area runs eventually. She never ran. She looked directly at the men, Patterson and Gimlin. Bigfoot rarely, if ever, do that. She was in sight for over a minute. 1967, how many people in the world had the ability to film this in the wild? 1%? Less than 1%? 1/10 of 1%? Why didn't it run? Why was it a female? Why is this the best footage in the world standing today? And why hasn't this ever been replicated by the tens of millions of people that have the ability to record video on their hip, in their pocket today? It's never been done. What happened at Bluff Creek in '67 that caused this to happen? You think it was random chance? Think about it. Why hasn't anyone gotten footage that's equal to this? Now, you're going to say, well, Dave, is this real Bigfoot? Oh, yeah, I guarantee it. They took this footage to Disney Films and said, hey, look at this. Could you guys replicate this in '67? They said, there's no friggin' way. You've got the real deal right there. There's no way we can make a suit like that. And if we were going to make one, we sure as hell wouldn't have made a female, because it's too hard to make it look real. Doug Hychuk, Monster Quest. Anybody watch Monster Quest? Okay, it was on TV for 7 years. Doug's a good friend. After Harvey did the sketch of Patty, you can barely see it. This is the sketch when Harvey took the hair off of Patty. That sketch looks like a Native American man. I showed it to Hychuk and he goes, hey Dave, when we were doing Monster Quest, we did the same thing you did. We took ours to an FBI analyst and said, take the hair off of it. And it looked the same as that. I go, why did you ever air it, Doug? Because the owners of history wanted this to be an A. I'm not kidding you, folks. I'm not kidding you. I said, Doug, but what about getting the answer right? Yeah, I know. I wish I wouldn't have done it, but I did. And he'll stand up and say it today. The DNA study, I could go through this, but anyhow, it turns out that the nuclear DNA that we have on Bigfoot shows the female going back 12 to 15,000 years to the Middle East. The male side of the DNA has never been categorized by GenBank. And essentially, folks, that is impossible. It doesn't ever happen. They thought that we had some kind of Amazon tribe that we found that had never been categorized. The male is not in society. How can that be? Many, I've heard it 500 times. Well, okay, obviously it's not of this world. I hear that all the time. But it's not a gorilla, ape, something along those lines. Academia. I usually get a couple of laughs out of this photo. So, why hasn't a Bigfoot researcher in academia obtained DNA samples and categorized it? Anybody who's a professor in a university can get a grant for almost anything. To study DNA? Absolutely. Why haven't they done it, folks? They want to slam us, but they don't want to go do it. Why? Come on. The answer's easy. They know exactly what the answer is. It's what we got. That's why they don't want to do it. Ray Crow was a researcher just out of Portland. He wrote something called a track record. Ray was dying. I bought his research. 17 years he wrote this newsletter called the track record. I put it on a USB. It's over on my table. And in that document, there's over 25 times other people did DNA studies. What were the results of those studies? 25 times out of 25 came back human. Every time somebody did a study and it came back human, you know what happened? They got slammed by everybody in the world. No, that's contamination. That's not what it is, blah, blah, blah. There's a consistency here. So, they're smart people. They understand that every result returns as a hybrid human. Why replicate it? They have a sample they did recently that returned the exact same thing out of here in Washington, and they won't talk about it. They came back as a hybrid human, just like ours. This is a photo that was given to me by Bruce McAbee. Again, it's tough to see. This is an orange background. This was taken by a trail camera. This is a silhouette of a Bigfoot with two glowing orange eyes. You can barely see it. And there was a photo and a description from Skinwalker Ranch when they saw a window open on the horizon. A bunch of retired FBI agents and security personnel saw it happen. A Bigfoot comes out. The background is orange. It jumps down onto the meadow and it runs off. I asked Bruce McAbee, who's an optical physicist, what did his trail camera catch? He said, Dave, I can only see it. It must be some kind of portal, because that's obviously what the colors match up and the figure matches up. This photo, given to me by a police officer in Wyoming, that right there sure looks like some kind of really small entity in the antler of that elk. I don't know. He said, Dave, what is it? I said, I don't know. But I guarantee the photo's good because McAbee approved it. There's a close-up of it. Okay, so that's my organization. That's our website, anybigfootsearch.com. Now I'm going to introduce you to somebody here and why he's here. Let me get this clear. Anybody ever heard of Steve Isd? Yeah. All right, good. Now, understand something. I'm not here to make a point, but I am here to bring somebody into the fold of the Bigfoot world that he's done some great videos about wildlife. And he just, within the last several months, started talking about Bigfoot. And he was getting upset for some of the reasons I just talked to you. Now, he was raised in Vancouver Island, lives now in Pemberton. He's been a hunting guide, a packer, a horseman, a fishing guide. He's an expert at black-tailed deer hunting. He's done some great deer hunting. He's a developer of 6 new apps for your phone. He's had 2 Bigfoot sightings and dozens of experiences during his time in the woods. His first Bigfoot sighting, he was really young. And it kind of changed his life forever. He owns a YouTube channel called How to Hunt. And they have 110,000 subscribers. Recently started to vigorously defend Bigfoot witnesses that are getting slammed by other organizations. He doesn't believe Bigfoot is an ape, gorilla, or a monkey. He supports the DNA study I talked about. And friends, all of you people here need to appreciate somebody like Steve, who has intellect, who lives in the outdoors, who has this experience, is going to be your defender when you step up and you explain what you've experienced in those words as well. So let's bring up Steve Isd. So, is it working? I don't know. Is it switch on? There we go.
You got it?
So, first of all, Steve, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I can tell you after being around this guy for 24 hours, he's a character. But you know what? He's he's one of those good souls that we need more of in our world. And I'm not trying to polish his shoes or anything, but geez, you've experienced and you've seen some of the Bigfoot world for yourself. What are your feelings?
Next day of my life.
Yeah.
Now, where do I start? I mean, what do you want to talk about? Once I get going, I'm not going to stop. I got so much to say.
Okay, so let's get right to it. Most of the people here who know you and have seen your site, How to Hunt, you've explained your Bigfoot sightings before. But the real question is, what's caused you to come out publicly and kind of change the tone of your channel from pure hunting to Bigfoot and hunting? And what's the end goal in coming out?
Well, I don't know how many people watch my channel. Lots of that. Yeah. Crazy buggers. Yeah, it's good. But anyway, so you already know my past story that have seen the videos. And I seen one of these things when I was about 18 years old. And I've never been a follower in my life. You know what I mean? I've never been a follower, I've never been intimidated by somebody who's saying something I don't really believe in or mean. And I saw this thing, and I almost saw a silhouette. It was on an angle about, it was like right in that corner, right there from it. I mean, what is that? 5 yards? 10 yards or something? But anyway, changed everything, absolutely changed everything. I never saw its facial features. So, when you're 18 years old, it's commercial fishing, and got off the boat, I'm boat hunting all the time, so my friends are still have to work, and I go make money fishing and run around the woods like a little maniac. And I seen this thing, and that's a long story in itself. So let's say I saw the thing, never saw its face. Brought a friend up there the next night, and he was maybe a third the size of it. And the most alarming thing for me was that sucker locked onto me, and it was waiting for me. There's no way that thing wasn't anticipating me coming. You know? And I spoke out to it like any kid would. Oh, what do you like? You know, you'd think it's another hunter, some of a game trail. And the second I spoke to it, it realized it screwed up on its silhouette. Because its silhouette was September blue sky, black timber, sharp, black timber, rock. Timber, he was screwed up and he was in that gap where the rock was. So he probably realized, oh. And then he went like this, you know. He was looking at me and he went like this. Right on sight. And I'll tell you what, when you're 18 years old and you're thinking it's a person, and you've got 40 minutes to walk out by yourself, and you're obviously looking right at each other and you say, hey, how's it going, any luck? And it acts like it's I was terrified. I think this guy's trying to kill me. This thing's trying to kill me. And he's above me. And in predator-prey world or even war, whoever's on top wins, right? So whoever's down below is vulnerable. And my vulnerable feeling was about Mach 5. And but anyways, I had to sneak out of there as long as walk out of the woods of my life. Then I was the only one up there. It's way in the middle of North Bank around. And then I had a book in grade 5 from John Green, I think. That book, years ago, I can't remember the name of it. That's all I knew about it. Didn't know anybody talked about it. Had to hold on to that for myself for a long time. And I was like, my grandfather, flew a bomber in the war, avid fly fisher, geologist, timber cruiser for the government, retired head of safety at the shipyards in Victoria where they build all the Navy ships. True gentle man, like a true gentle man. Not a drinker, blah, blah, blah. Didn't hunt, but fished. And he was just a wealth of knowledge, the most intelligent person I know. And I bought him a book called Mysteries of the World, book for Christmas. Real hardcover book. Wait about it. And Christmas dinner ended, and there was the dining room table. So I leave it, I'm running back. I want to grab the book and go straight to the Sasquatch section to see if there's any new reports in there. Because remember, back in the day, it's all the same authors and the same stories, you know, you read about the typical ones, not like since the internet's born. I read the book, and he comes over and sits beside me. And his son looks around to make sure everybody's still in the dining room. So, Stephen, do you believe in those things? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw them. Oh, Well, and he looks again to make sure nobody's looking at him. Well, I'm going to share a story with you then. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Because of all those years you're packing that experience when you're a kid, you think you're a dumb kid. And nobody's there to fill you in honestly. But now be one person in your entire existence you trust with your life, who never ever mislead you or lie to you ever, who offered up his life to fly a sheet metal tube full of bombs, so that every person in this room could sit here and listen to these stories and live their lives. And which, I'm getting ahead of myself, but getting back to what you asked me, why I came out. Anyways, he told me a story. Ryan went face to face in the San Juan River, head of San Juan River on Vancouver Island. And It's funny, I got out of this part because I said, he must have been scared shitless. He's like, well, I was concerned. I'm like, come on, man, you were terrified. There's no way you were scared. Talk to yourself. Oh, Stephen, I was concerned. You know, never admit to being scared. So, but anyway, for me, that was it. I'm done. I'm good. Now we're here. I knew it. You know, I knew it. And years gone by, I'm a big game guy. I've guided almost everybody you're familiar with on TV. I've been all over the place. And I don't miss too much because maybe that has something to do with my guiding career, being aware of those all those years, because when you're aware of these things in the forest where you are, you do not miss a thing. Especially being a full-time hunt guy, you don't miss a thing. You know, when you're a trapper, trappers don't miss anything. They see tracks in the snow, they don't miss a thing. But after you've seen one of these things, and you have to go in the woods 200 plus days a year, you're 75% focused on the task at hand, and you're 25% focused for these things. And you cannot stop yourself. And every single day of your life, you go into that forest, you cannot stop yourself from thinking about these things. It doesn't matter what anybody says. No, it doesn't matter what anybody says. The second you see one of these things, the majority of the public, it's kind of real stupid real quick. When you see somebody laughing about Sasquatch, you look at them and you're just looking out a window liquor, as far as I'm concerned. Right? You're smart as a pickle. Seriously? 10,000 people in our community have seen one of these things, and you're laughing at them? How stupid are you? Hey, that's stupid? Really? You know, so anyway, getting back to what I came out. So how did you get going?
I was going to ring you back, but he didn't let you go.
He kept me talking till 2 o'clock in the morning last night. Anyway, so, but on a serious note, so I don't give a crap what anybody thinks. I don't care. I'm busy creating and doing what I'm doing. I dedicate my life to sharing true and knowledge with people without all the BS, because I'm sick of the BS. After you see what's going on behind the camera with a lot of these TV shows, and nobody's actually helping all of you in an honest way to save money and get better and do what they can do. And I said, that's going. So I wanted to figure out how to share true over knowledge with everybody, help everybody save money and get better, because conservation needs all of you to get better. Period. Not byproducts and praise some doorknob, right? So anyway, so I started doing that, and then I started creating how-to knowledge for the outdoors, and then everybody loved the hunt stories, hunt cap all the time. I thought, I'm going to tell a hunt story online. And everybody went crazy. Tell us another one, you know? But all the time I'm building up this exposure to hunting and fishing knowledge, I'm getting people like all of you nonstop on me. Hey, tell us, you seen Bigfoot? You must see Bigfoot. Crack that open like I need a bowling pin, right? Let's ignore it. And it's nonstop. I'm just getting pummeled on nonstop. Emails, comments, come on, you haven't seen one of these things. Tell us something. And all of a sudden one day I'm by myself and just sitting there in the mountains. I'm in the mountains all the time, you guys. Like, I am in the mountains all the time. Probably, even right now, off season, I'm in there 5 days a week. And I'm sitting there and I'm picturing my grandfather, and I'm picturing him jumping in that sheet metal tube full of bombs to fly over to Europe. And then I thought about him, and I'm like, what? He did that to save everybody in this room, everybody in this country, I helped to, and he died scared of everybody in this room, and scared of ridicule. I'm like, what? No more of that. Wouldn't have a shit. So that's when I come up and in my first video I said, yeah, I seen one. And I seen one. And that's all there's to it. There's a human being alive big enough to make me change my story and laugh at me. I'm looking down, and I let it, you probably see my videos, I get a little passionate about it. And I don't kid you, it's like every single person that laughs at any of you for seeing one of these things for me, I'm looking way down on you. Period. You're down there. That's all there is to it. And that's 100% out of respect for my grandfather. And that is why I shared my story with everybody, was because of him. Period.
So Steve, we understand how you got there, but in your mind, what's the end goal in coming out like that?
The end goal, well, when I first came out, it was just for exactly what I said. And then I had tons of feedback of people just breathing a sigh of relief. It was ridiculous. And then I realized, wow, there's a lot of hurt and souls out there. There's a lot. And I'm like, all right, if this is making you feel better and you want to share your experience with me and I'll share it with client confidence, I got your back, man. I got your back. Send it over. And I'll share it. That's how that started.
So, we've had talks about this at length, and you with others as well, but why do you believe a segment of the Bigfoot world is demeaning and attack-oriented?
Why is it? You know what, I haven't really put too much energy into trying to figure out why these are willingly and avidly and pulling the trigger and attacking good, honest people. I don't really have too much patience for these people, obviously. And why are they doing it? I haven't a clue. Why, one other question you could ask that, why do the people with the most television lens time all tell everybody it's a monkey or gorilla? And it's the same people that are attacking and demeaning other people, attacking them. These people are willingly pulling the trigger and ganging up on innocent, hardworking, honest people and ruining their careers. That's what I'm seeing, and I got no problem saying that out loud, because everybody should start talking about that.
So, what you're doing, I love it, because there's nobody ever in the Bigfoot world that I know about that's done this. Now, if you bring down that curtain and people are allowed to speak freely, and those people like your grandfather weren't intimidated to coming out and talking, what can you imagine happening?
Whoever it is who is intent on keeping the truth from everyone, whatever, we were talking the other night, what's up with power? How much power does one human being need? What do you get for power? Sex, toys, comfort, holidays? Well, how much of that do you need? I'm trying to figure out what's this big craving for this power? What is it you're hiding from to keep this launch truth from the population? I don't get it. I don't understand. And I try not to lose too much time in there, because right now what I'm trying to do is, and I'm pretty sure it's working, is, all right, these people are laughing at you, kick them aside. Okay, so let's kick them aside, get them out of the way. I started that one.
Keep going.
But one thing, just myself, is I've gained so much knowledge in the last 6 years, it's ridiculous. And I stopped watching television 6 years ago. I refused to watch it. You want to lose brain power at a time I watched here? Sadly. So I started becoming very, very more aware of various things. I'm sitting in the back shop, sitting on the fence, watching some embarrassing shit show go on. And I started to realize what the most effective tool these people have come up with to keep all of you sitting down stagnant, going in circles, is calling you a liar. Prove it. Prove it. There's no proof. Prove it. And the second you engage one of these people, it stops you dead. Nothing goes forward. And it keeps going in a circle. And then everybody starts arguing with these people who are screaming, show me the proof. But meanwhile, when you're a guy like me, full of common sense, seeing exactly what's going on, you sit back watching, it's like, hey, wait a minute. These guys got the DNA. Now let's even go backwards. First you got over 10,000 sightings. That's proof enough right there. Get your community back. Quit automatically calling somebody a liar. Who started that trend? It's okay to instantly point the finger at a true color of your community and say, you're lying. You're lying, you're a joke, pulling your fire. It's just wrong. I'll start to go on a tangent again.
Okay, so let's think about this. This was an interesting conversation we had last night. And you said that when you're guiding multi-day hunts, one night during the hunt is kind of like Bigfoot talk night.
Yeah, each night, yeah.
Tell us how that goes.
Well, we'll be in, how it works out, we ride in about 20 horses in the Northern Rockies, and then we'll have a bush plane comes and brings 2 hunters every 2 weeks for 14 days, and then we're remote. I mean, we're so remote, it's ridiculous. You're not walking out of there. And we always have a story in it, so it's a theme. You guys gotta try it. This is the most funny. One night we'll have the most embarrassing moment of your entire life night, where everybody has to give it up. It's not gonna leave camp, and that is the most comic-filled evening you'll ever have. And I win every time. It's like, don't worry, Sheriff, I got you beat no matter what you got. And then the next night, my guy parent, hey, let's have Bigfoot night tonight. And then we'll bring up the top of Sasquatch with the 2 hunters. These are usually, TV stars, movie stars, corporate monsters, the hangman, the big Jesus.